Hey guys, so it seems like it has literally been forever since we've had a class, and I know that y'all are sick and tired of doing common lists because I'm sick and tired of grading them. So this is the week that we start our new kind of format and schedule for the rest of the school year. So sorry to disappoint you, you're not done with school. But so as you can see on the PowerPoint, starting today, you will meet Monday and Thursday. You will meet first, second, third, and fourth. So they'll meet about an hour each. So you'll only be responsible for classwork that's assigned on Monday, and then you won't you won't have to check in with your first, second, third, or fourth period class again until Thursday. And then you'll see fifth, sixth, and seventh meet Tuesday and Friday. So you're really getting that college feel. So also what I want y'all to pay attention to is each morning you're going to check in with your first period teacher, even on days that you don't miss with your, or you don't meet with your first period teacher. So it's kind of like having a homeroom like you did in middle school. So you're going to meet with your first period teacher each morning and check in. So like the Google form that you most likely have been doing in your first period class, you're going to continue doing that each day. So during the regular allotted time for first period, which is from 9 until 9 to 10:05, 9 to 10 essentially, you're going to have to check in with your first period teacher during that time. But what I also want you to pay attention to is each week at the beginning of the week, I'm going to kind of give you a week at a glance. So what you're going to expect in your history class from me at the beginning of each week. So you'll know exactly what you need to work on, let's say if you meet second period, you meet Monday, you'll know exactly what you need to work on, then you'll know what you need to work on second period as well. So then when it says down here, it says counseling. So each Tuesday and Friday from 1 until 2, if you have a meeting with the counselor or college counselor or something like that, that'll be your time to meet. Also, you'll notice right here, each day I have office hours for your class period. So if you're in second period, Monday and Thursday from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. So 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. If you need to have any kind of Zoom meeting, or if you need to get caught up, or if you're confused about something, we can schedule a time to meet during those times, as well as if you have me fifth or sixth period on Tuesday and Friday, excuse me. We can meet between 2 and 4 p.m. as well, if you need to get caught up on anything, or if you're confused or anything like that. So all this will be on Google Classroom as well. So this is the first video lecture that we're going to have. So what I want you to see is there will be something like this posted, and it'll give you a link to the video. This video that I'm making will be listed right here. So this is like your first assignment. It's Hitler's first 2 mistakes that he made of World War II and how those really changed the landscape for World War II. So you're going to listen to this lecture as I go through, and you're going to have a notes template right here. So there's been a copy, your own individual copy made for each one of you right here. So you'll open it, and it'll look something like this. So each of you have your own copy, so you're going to be able to make your own, you can type your answers in as you go. So let's say as you listen to me, there's 2 main things that I'm going to make sure you need to know by the time we finish this section on the Battle of Bri. But also, feel free to pause the lecture at any time and stop and fill in notes. I don't expect you to just have to type constantly. So even if you have to rewind and start back, I mean, the lecture is only going to be about 20 minutes, so it's nothing too bad. So just make sure to fill these out as you go. But you'll notice each major topic has a YouTube video or 2 to watch as we go through. So what I want you to do is to make sure to watch and pause this video each time we get to one of the YouTube videos. And I'll tell you when to pause it and go follow this link and watch the video first. So that's to kind of give you an accurate picture or kind of context of what's going on during this time. And so then we will do the discussion questions, the DQs, and the summarizer as a class on whichever day you meet with me next. So if your second period on Thursday, during your class's allotted time, we will meet on Zoom and have the discussion questions and fill in the summarizer along with this other assignment I'll mention at the end of the lecture that we'll do as a class. So with that being said, this will be due at a certain time, you have to have this copied and your answers filled out and all that by a certain time each time that we do this kind of assignment. So with that being said, let's get going on the lecture. So I need you to have the notes in front of you ready to type. So you'll see that our learning goal for today, so by the end of this online lecture, you will have to be able to explain Hitler's first two major mistakes of World War II. So I know that we left off with the common lits looking at Japan and their attack on Pearl Harbor and how that brought the US into the war, and how now we kind of jumped back and forth between Europe and Japan. So now we're back to Europe with Hitler. So we last left off with Hitler starting to invade Poland and the war breaking out. So Hitler is racing across Europe. So now Hitler's going to make his first two big mistakes. The first one that we're going to get talking about, we're going to start talking about this Battle of Britain. So Hitler starts to invade Britain between the summer of 1940 and September 1940. So first off, what we need to do is pause real quick and watch the video that's under your notes right there. So you need to follow that link and watch the video really quick. So pause this lecture, watch the video, and come back to the lecture. Okay, so as you can see in the pictures right here, Hitler launches an all-out assault on England. Luftwaffe comes and just annihilates all these cities. This is a look at London during this time. Let's look at this. Each one of these red dots indicates a bomb that was dropped on England or on London for 57 straight nights. So for your first X, you need to know that Hitler knew he had to take control of the air before he could invade England. So before he could launch a land assault, he knew that he had to control the air with his air force before he could invade England. That's your first X. And so because he knew that, your second X, for 57 straight nights, so for 57 nights in a row, Hitler dropped over 100,000 tons of bombs on London. So each one of these red dots represented a bomb that was dropped on London. So right here is London. Each one of those represents a bomb. So your second X is that for 57 straight nights, over 100,000 tons of bombs were dropped on London. That's one city. So that city is leveled. Innocent people, soldiers alike, everybody, nobody was safe. So for 57 straight nights. So, like we mentioned, we're going to skip over this discussion question because that's what we're going to discuss in class during our scheduled Zoom meeting. So we get to these results and the first big mistake of Hitler. So going back to our learning goal, we want to be able to discuss or explain what his first two mistakes were of World War II. So first off, though, what was this result of these long bombings? So despite how bad those bombings were, as you can see in the video and in that picture, your first X is that Churchill in England refused to surrender. So Winston Churchill, who we discussed was the leader of England during this time, they refused to surrender. So they refused to surrender because they just knew that they were like the last man standing in Europe to keep Hitler from conquering Europe. So they were the last people standing, so they refused to surrender. And so by September 1940, Hitler had canceled his invasion of England. So by September of 1940, he canceled his invasion of England. That's your second X. So he canceled his invasion of England. Okay, so your third X in this first big mistake, him canceling this invasion is your first big mistake because this allowed England to rebuild their military. So it allowed them to rebuild their air force, rebuild their army. So instead of Hitler just launching his invasion, by canceling it, it allowed England essentially to rebuild their entire military. So that first big mistake that we were talking about is your third X. Him canceling the invasion allowed England to rebuild their military? Okay. Okay, so we have now Hitler. These are a lot of different pictures. So we have now Hitler turns to the Soviet Union, this thing called Operation Barbarossa. So this is the second time that you need to pause this video and go and watch follow the link that I provided below for you. So go ahead and follow that link. Okay, so as you can see, this is Hitler starting to invade the Soviet Union, who used to have the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, which was the agreement not to go to war with the Soviet Union. So why did he now decide to go to war with the Soviet Union? So why open up a two-front war? So why open up this two-front war? So your first thing you need to know is that he was convinced, Hitler was convinced, that Great Britain or England was still in the war only because they were having the Soviets' help. So your first X, why did Hitler decide to invade the Soviet Union? So the only reason they did that is that they figured that England was still fighting because they thought that they had the Soviet Union's help. The second reason why Hitler wanted to open up this two-front war, so the reason why he was okay with invading England and invading Soviet Union at the same time, was that he believed, this is your second X, he believed he could easily win the war and destroy Stalin. So he didn't see Stalin as being able to fight at all. So he saw Stalin as just being this lazy individual that he knew he could beat. Okay, so you know how I love Game of Thrones, so I have to quote, "Winter's coming." So winter is coming. This is Hitler starting to invade the Soviet Union. So your first X for this, Hitler had planned to invade in the spring, but the attack Italy was starting to fall apart, so that delayed their plan. So Hitler had originally thought to invade the Soviet Union in the springtime when it was warm, but because Italy was useless, essentially, he had to delay his invasion. So that's why I mentioned these two right here, because I just love puns and memes. So winter's coming. So Hitler now, your second X, he launched his invasion in June of 1941 because he figured he could win before the winter. So Hitler, in your second X, Hitler launched this invasion on the Soviet Union because he believed that he could actually conquer the Soviets before winter. So he thought, I'm going to launch in the summer, that's okay, but I'll win by the winter. Which, if Germany just never learns their lesson. I mean, Napoleon had the same issue with Russia back when he was conquering Europe in the 1800s. He invaded the Soviet Union during the summer. Same thing's about to happen. World War I. Germany launches a major offensive in the summer, hoping to win before the winter. They end up falling again. So anyway, so they launched this invasion in the summer because Hitler thought that he could defeat the Soviets before wintertime. That leads you to your third X under winter is coming. This blitzkrieg, which we had talked about, this lightning war, it had worked at first when Hitler first invaded the Soviet Union. So at first, this blitzkrieg was working. They covered 1,800 miles across. So the military literally was 1,800 miles all the way across Europe and launched an invasion force. 1,800 miles. That's literally from here to California long. So like tanks lined up over 1,800 miles, 1,800 miles, all the way across Europe as they invaded the Soviet Union. That's how large the Soviet Union is. They're one of the largest countries on earth. So the winter sets in and we get to Hitler's second mistake. So the winter sets in and we get to Hitler's second mistake. The first thing you need to know is that an early winter occurred. So an early winter occurred as Hitler invaded the Soviet Union. and it left over 500,000 Nazis with no winter gear. So this early winter set in. And nearly 500,000 Nazis were left with no winter gear at all. They were left with literally summer wear. So they were freezing to death. Your second X is that the Soviet resistance stopped Hitler's blitzkrieg for the first time. So the Soviet resistance, the Soviets were able to stop Hitler's army for the very first time. This was the first time throughout all of World War II that this had happened. So for the first time, the Soviets were able to stop Hitler's advance for the first time. So your third X, Hitler invading the Soviet Union during the summer proved to be his second big mistake because they weren't prepared. So Hitler's military was woefully underprepared. So there was no way that they had a chance to fight. So we get to the effect of Stalingrad. The effect of Stalingrad. So this is what's going to be considered the turning point of World War II, the first big turning point of World War II. So we need to pause real quick and watch the two videos that I have included for Stalingrad. So there are two videos, one on top of the other, that we need to pause this lecture and watch those really quick. Okay, so the Battle of Stalingrad, as you could tell in that video, was horrible. It lasted forever. It lasted a long time. So the first X of what you need to know for the effect of Stalingrad, it was the largest and bloodiest battle in human history. So this was the largest battle ever in human history. The largest and the bloodiest. Fun fact, the largest and bloodiest battle up until that point was the Battle of Antietam during the Civil War. But anyway, so it was the largest battle in human history, this Battle of Stalingrad. Over 2 million soldiers died in this one battle. So in this one battle, over 2 million German and Soviet soldiers died. 2 million people. Just to give you a little context, during the Civil War, only 600,000 people died total throughout the entire war. So throughout the entire Civil War, which was a 4-year war, only 600,000 people died. In this one battle, over 2 million died. That's insane. So your third X about the effect of Stalingrad, was that it was considered the first major turning point of World War II. So the first big thing to kind of change the balance of power, but it's often overlooked. So it was considered the first big turning point of World War II, the big change, a shift in power. So up until then, Hitler had been pushing across Europe with nobody stopping him. But this was the first time that Hitler had been stopped, was at the Battle of Stalingrad. And this proved to be a turning point to where the Allies started to gain power. So this was the first big turning point in World War II, but it's often overlooked. So as you can see in the picture right here, it says how people think World War II is versus how it really was. So how people think is that the United States just came in and we dominated everybody. But this is how it really was. The United States played a decent role, but the Soviet Union gave up as many people and provided the most help throughout World War II. But their contributions are often really overlooked. So what I'm wanting y'all to see, just kind of recap real quick, there were two big mistakes that Hitler made during this time. We talked about how he stopped invading England, so he canceled his invasion of England. So why did he decide to do that? And then his second big mistake was when he decided to invade the Soviet Union so close to wintertime. What kind of effect did that have? So we'll answer the summarizer in class on the next time that we meet, which depending on if you're second, fifth, or sixth, second period will be Thursday, fifth and sixth will be Friday. So we're going to answer these discussion questions. So what I want us to do, your homework, is be ready to have our discussion questions on your scheduled day on Zoom. So Thursday or Friday. And then the second thing I'm going to have posted for you, an analysis of Churchill's Never Surrender speech. So we mentioned Winston Churchill. He was a leader of England. So they were bombarded by Germany over and over again. 57 straight days we mentioned, 100,000 bombs, 100,000 tons of bombs. So there's an assignment that's going to be posted on Google Classroom, and you just need to read I'm going to have a video of the speech posted, which is from a movie that just recently came out. Then you need to analyze the speech. So read the speech as Churchill says it in the speech. And just be prepared on Zoom to have, I'm going to have questions to go along with it, and be prepared to discuss some of those questions. We're going to work on analyzing this together and see what kind of answers we're able to get and what perspectives we get. So just remember these two things next time we meet, all right? So if you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'm happy to help you in any way I can. All right, y'all have a great day.